Good afternoon, everyone. I'm back with another coding challenge. Today we are continuing on in the week of September 25th, but today we are on the medium challenge called filtered squares. Let's go ahead and get started with the instructions. The instruction is to write a function named filtered squares. In the parameter, it is taken in limit and divisor that generates a list of squares of numbers from 1 up to and including the provided limit. Then it filters the list to only include numbers that are divisible by the provided divisor. And under it, it gives us a few examples of data that we can use to test our function when we are done. As you can see, I already declared the function here, filter squares, and that's stated in the instructions. I did provide the input of limits and divisor, and also in my main, I have provided the two test cases with the data, and we can test it at the end. So right now I'm going to go ahead and pop it out to full screen so you guys can see it a little better as I go through and create that logic. There we have it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the function. First thing we're going to do is I am going to create a list to hold the square numbers, which is the first step. So I provided the list, I called it squares, and it is set to an empty list. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to need a for loop because we are going to essentially go from 1 up to the provided limit, and we are going to add each square of I into that empty list. So first thing I did was I created a variable, which I didn't actually need, so I'm actually going to go back and delete that because we are going to declare I in our for loop itself. So I'm going to do I for range, and of course we're starting at 1, which the first position in the argument will be 1, comma, and where you want to end. So we want to end on the limit provided. So in order to do that, we have to add 1, because when you add the end into this function here, it will not include the last number that you specify to end at. So if we want the last number, you have to add 1, and that will actually give us the limit that is provided. So let's go ahead and loop from 1 into the end. And for I, we want to square it and then add it to our list. So we're going to call our list squares, and we are going to append I times I, and that is the square of I each time it increments. So since we have the list of squares of numbers from 1 up to the limit, next thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and filter that list to only include numbers that are divisible by the provided divisor. So my first thought was to just put it in a return, but then as you see, I am going to go back and just do a list comprehension, and then from there I am going to add that list as the return value. So here I am with the list comprehension. I'm calling it final list. And today my brain was a little foggy, so it did take me a minute to remember the logic. At first I started with num of nums, but then I remember it is num for nums in the specified list that we're going to be using. So we're going to do num for nums. That is in squares, which is the list that's holding all the square roots. But we want to have an if condition. Only if the number itself is divisible by the divisor that is provided. So what I did was, if number divided by the divisor has a remainder of 0, then you know it is a correct number to display in our return list. So from here, only thing left to do is to return the filtered list, which is final list. Alright guys, next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and run this function to see what we get. So let's run this and I'll be right back. And there we have it. We have the filter list, which is taking all of the square roots from 1 until the limit, and then we're filtering it to only the numbers that are divisible by the divisor. So with the first one, we had the square roots from 1 to 10, and then we're filtering it to only bring back the numbers divisible by 4. And on the second one, we have the square roots from 1 to 20, and then we're filtering it to only bring back the numbers divisible by 5. So a better way to see and make sure this is happening, what I'm going to do at the top is I'm going to print out the square list before it is filtered, just so we can compare the original list to the list that we got at the end here. So I'm just going to go up and print add a print statement for the squares, and then we will see the original list against the filtered list. And you see here, the first step was indeed the square roots from 1 to 10, and then we filtered that to numbers divisible by 4. And the second list, you have the square roots from 1 to 20, and then we have filtered that to the numbers divisible by 5. So everything is working correctly here. Let me know if you have any tips for me. Let me know how you would have went about solving this problem. And thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you guys on the flip side. Bye-bye.